What you're saying makes no sense. There's no way he is the VOAT. And there's no way your guy is either. He blew a 10-year lead in one day. The heck is going on here? Captain, we need you to decide once and for all who out of these three is the greatest OP VOAT. Prior to this character dropping into the series, genuine One Piece fans were already bought into it. But there were still several people on the fence on whether the story will turn out great or not by the end. Especially if you became aware of this when it was the Big Three era, where Bleach and Naruto were ongoing within that shared media. But the instant this arc got going, it was clear we were going down a much different level than what we had experienced before now. It seemed like it was going to be a build-up, almost like how you get a sort of climax or when an end of series type saga is out. So we headed to the Sandy Kingdom and home to one of the friends the Straw Hats met as they tried to give her hope. Deep in the Desert Kingdom was where we got the intro of the greatest villain of all time, and by now you should know. Came through with a call via Denden Mushi, was the mafia boss himself, and the only one I can remember being referred to as Sir, and well, that is the one and only Sir Crocodile, who exuded an aura from hell. He wasn't interested at all in engaging in the dirty work, so instead, he let his network of subordinates carry out his tasks. In fact, he only made public appearances under special circumstances, and that's even when the Straw Hats came to his attention. He simply had them trapped in a cage and left to go about his business, not wasting any time for crap. He was the first genuine big time boss that the story dished out, to the point where it was like he might be the actual series villain found in this land where he had his hands in a lot of the operations, got clout in the country. From the early introductions and talks, he was revered in all towns. As for why Sir Crocodile is the greatest One Piece villain of all time, the biggest reason is in large part the drip, the attire, the style. Like he either has his own tailor within Baroque works, and with his mind, maybe there's a Miss Cosplayer partnered with Mr. Fashion 21 or something design. Or he just regularly hops in and out of whatever stores every week for a new coat and fit. Crocodile has the hair slicked back, oiled, combed, sharp and crisp, most likely using the most expensive shampoo and hair oil that is built. That side of the Grand Line, along with colognes of a similar level in ilk. Shoes, same thing, name brand. And if I'm talking style, it also has to do with the people you're partnered with. Crocodile was partnered with the one and only Miss All Sunday, so what you think? AKA Nico Robin, which other villain was partnered with one of the hottest in the series? So the main reason Crocodile is the greatest villain of all time in this is due to the amount of things that had to be done to get to him. Baroque Works was a fully organized network of criminals running quick, precise branches of a larger business that Crocodile oversaw, so it wasn't as simple as just beat up this random Baroque Works agents and it's over. No, defeating one agent will definitely not cause them to be in a roller coaster. Most likely, it would lead to them simply finding a replacement like a new holster. Crocodile also set this up in a way where the top agents working for him were bolstered with partners. And even if they don't have partners, they have their own reliable subordinates or minions to do the dirty work. It's undeniable. You had to get through those agents at the same time or your assault is liable to fail on Crocodile himself, and then if you're lucky to him, it's justifiable. You are faced with the sand fruit, which is among the rare devil fruit class. To even be able to touch him, you need some degree of mastery of Haki, and that might not be enough either, so another plan is to cut yourself up bad and lose a lot of blood to physically hit him to give yourself the best chance. Crocodile also, for the longest while, was the only villain that Luffy had to fight for more than once and more than twice in order to finally take down, and he showed up again towards the beginning of a next arc, long after that epic clash with Luffy, impelled down, escaping, appeared in Marineford, and literally did not care if any emperors or admirals or warlords were there. On the field, he was going after anybody far or near. Arguably the MVP of that whole classic where there were other top tiers. Crocodile is one of the characters with the biggest bounty jumps that we've seen in the series, as the last we saw he was in the 80 mil slump. Now he is almost at 2 billion plus. And once more responsible for another organization of emperor status and stuff. Definitely one of the highest IQs across any fictional stories. If you ask me to know what I think Crocodile might do next on the seas, whether as a villain or not, I would not be surprised if he delivers an impressive scene, taking down a Yonko commander or an admiral 1v1 before end of the series. I wouldn't be surprised if he brought Tiny Waist Paula out of retirement and make her the new All Sunday wine and dining. I wouldn't be surprised if he gave up on Pluton because he is on a different timing and his new network is closing in on Uranus or Poseidon or finding some other thing. With all of the knowledge and all the above, I say I've made my case in this vote debate. And that's the greatest O. P. VOAT. The greatest O. P. VOAT. Yeah. Okay, so that was our first vote case. Apparently fairly decent start. Went off the rails for a bit there, but I mean, with the whole best dressed or trip or whatever the blast that segment was, but it kind of pulled it back in the end. But I don't like this. It's too early. The verdict is you get to walk the faulty diving board plank. It used to be a non-faulty diving board plank, but Big Mom was using it at some point in between husbands. Get him overboard! Aye aye, Captain! Bring out the next scallywag that's spitting the next vote case! What? Too early. Captain! Yeah. Alright. Walk the plank. Yeah. Push him overboard! Okay, you ready? Okay, alright, so let's go. Okay. This introduction came at a time when we least expected it. We were already coming off seemingly solid villains and arcs in the series. To some fans, these villains were consistently getting better, mostly classics. To some, that wasn't the case with the new locations and lore, among other things, were interesting enough to carry on in diving faster. We had already enjoyed the fluffy clouds and a less intimidating fear factor, villain and threat. So this was a perfect build-up and the best kickstarter of the journey continuation in the Blue Seas. We arrived on an island, the crew dispersed. for a bit, but in this place the word long listed twice in its name, so from all of those hints you should be able to figure out what I'm saying, that the person I'm hinting at for being the greatest villain at this stage in the series is none other than Silver Fox Foxy. So let's make the case. I want to start off by saying, hear me out. Yeah. Because I know that there are some folks that have this belief going about that the great Foxy was not a great villain for the story or in general, and how, looking back at the Long Ring Long Land arc, is forgettable and useless, they shout. But those people, in all honesty, do not know what the heck they are talking about, as the arc itself was a classic, and of course a big reason for that is no doubt due to Foxy himself, an established pirate that wasn't any clown. He had several members within his crew from multiple towns. Let's get past the seemingly barren land, the long animals, and the old guy with the spoiled cheese or whatever that was with the straw hats became Pulse. The Foxy Pirates had one of the most threatening entrances, and that's by sending out humongous anchors from their huge ship in a path where it blocked the dock going merry from the front and the back. All the Straw Hats could do is stand and wait and watch. Because a duel was announced instantly to set up a clash, Foxy showed up before Luffy after quickly shooting down a pet horse, and it slammed down in the dirt, close, triggering Luffy's anger to the point where Luffy accepted the Davy back fight, which led to Usopp to show fear, pretty much saying they'll lose everybody. So right off the bat, right there, was no time wasting at all. We had suspense and we had a threat. It's clear. It was unlike any we had gotten before in the series leading up to that point. Foxy also had two of his close companions with him in the Porsche girl, that joint that Sanji obviously also found out which she is. She had the attractive loins, but also he had another companion in the ape guy that looked like he was on roids. Both were listed as fighters, proving he had an actual combatant crew. I believe that possibly the biggest reason going for Foxy being that dude, the greatest villain, is the laugh. Seriously, no pun too. What more would you need from a One Piece bad guy if not a unique tune? When laughing, that can cause fear and nervousness to whoever is unlucky enough to hear it. That fe 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 sound was impressively terrifying, and when you add that to the fact that he found various things amusing, you never could know for sure if he is laughing just to laugh or if he was laughing because another devious thing was in the floors, in the works, and set in motion to secure a victory in ruining the Straw Hats for sure. So that's it. But if you want some further explanation, the reason why Foxy is the greatest in the OP nation is his timing and his creativity and mobilization. Foxy was able to target the Straw Hats shortly after they returned from the Sky Stations and challenged Luffy, who they figured would accept things right off the bat. Then they had like a whole fair thing going on in a snap. They turned the whole island into basically a gigantic Davy back fight amusement park, something misleading too, because what it came across as was a place that you got food and drinks and music and all that, but in reality everything is rigged due to his choosing and his crew's favored on top of all of that, or I should say due to this. Foxy was like the only captain in the whole series to screw things up in a way for the Straw Hats so that he had multiple of their members. But let us not even dare to overlook his devil fruit powers. No, never. The slow fruit, one of the few time-related fruits in this ledger, capable of slowing down anything. In order to beat this guy, you gotta be clever. Luffy needed to summon the powers of the Afro, a rare state and form even for Luffy. The Straw Hats got pushed in the show to the brink in as creative a way as you could imagine in the flow of the world of pirates. So that is why Foxy is the VOAT. I will not be surprised if Foxy shows up next allied with Lord Bucky. As part of the Cross Guild crew, I would not be surprised if Foxy's bounty is now in the billion and above range. I would not be surprised if he awakened it. The slow fruit, and I most certainly would not find it particularly surprising. If Silver Fox Foxy right now is in a unique lane that bridges piracy with underworld business, he might be connected to whoever they are talking about as a burn scar man or whatever, but he could have also done this. Acquired at some point in the time skip tools or info from Vegapunk and had it. Basically digitized the Davy-back system, setting up long distance visual transponder snails on the ground, gamble, and if you lose, whatever was betted gets placed in a portal or a magic circle around the snail that then gets phased and transported to him. This would be more convenient and modernly arranged. A definite improvement from the old way of physically tracking down Davy-back opponents in the past. Foxy could do all of that shit, because he is the greatest One Piece villain of all time in every way. So I've made my case in this vote debate. Yeah. Okay. And that's the greatest OP. The greatest OP. Yeah. Alright. Goddamn. Okay, most of that was so unnecessary that I am not I am at a loss on how to even begin to rate this. I figured we only had 3 cases to hear, and this wasn't one of them. What the heck is going on? Hey, who even allowed this case to be brought before me? Ah, goddamn. Anyway, the decision is you walk a plank, the holographic plank. Send out the next vote. I just made the best case. I just made the best. What are you doing? You can't. Okay. You can't, I don't. Push him overboard. Help. I guess it's up to me now. Okay. Let's go. Allow me to take you to the time when things were scattered. We were forced to adjust to the new supporting characters around Luffy, and occasionally the ones that were around the other Straw Hats as well. Things were different in the pages between these covers. We didn't know it at the time, but by this point in the story, we had already seen the last we would see of the crew adventuring together before they made the decision to just stay in the places where they were and for the future to continue training. So this was, after all that, and within the times when the push was to free Ace, and that was in full effect. Going by all this, you can probably hone in on the state where I'm going to find this villain. Yes, this is within the confines of the cage of the underwater prison called Impel Down. It is here you will find the vote babe. The greatest villain is Sadie, who brought uniqueness and flair to one of the darkest arcs. Ironically, this arc also had a different air because it could be considered as equally funny through the levels that's there, a place for contradictions of sorts. And Sadie was like the embodiment. It's rare. Sadie instantly showed up with the vibe of a dominatrix. Matter of fact, she literally announced that her passion was torture. This was basically like what a real life prison security that likes the job's shtick because they get to beat up people, or a funeral director that enjoys due to daily demises. That is who Sadie is, even though One Piece is PG. She pushed the boundaries in her intro by whipping one of the Marines that questioned why she was referring to her own self as Sadie Chan on screen. She also, within that same introduction, went on to be aroused by the scream of the Marine, further hinting that that would be something she had fun with daily. Working the impel down inmates, or who knows, maybe this is something she also applied to some of the co-workers within that walled hell, but for the OP world it may be best to not spell out everything. Now Sadie is the greatest due to one thing, and that is the devil aesthetic. That is something that any random character or villain or rebel within the One Piece world can actually pull off in combining vibe and dress code level, up to the notches that she did, and she has what we grew up knowing as a vessel, or look or tools devil-like creatures would use. She had the fork and the horns and the mouth to back up the actions too. To take it a step further, Sadie is like a close parallel of what a succubus would do, or look mainly within the One Piece world without a doubt. Dude. There's a pink suit, the revealing outfit, the horns, messy hair, hidden eyes, the gigantic fork. We cannot overlook anything there. Now Sadie is not the greatest female villain in One Piece. Let me rephrase that. Sadie is not just the greatest female villain in One Piece, as she is literally the greatest villain overall regardless of gender team. Now here is the real reason why, based on all that I have seen. Awakened zones are rare in the One Piece world, but they are extremely resilient and powerful, and this is something we've all heard. Sadie was able to control these beasts with a flash of her whip and her voice, and she herself had a fast recovery time the moment she re-emerged and woke up again. She got even beasts that were defeated up and in intense action immediately after in a blink. It was also revealed that she does have enhanced strength, since she can destroy and damage things with flashing her whip. We could say that her introduction was foreshadowing. The Marine that screamed early on was in actual pain, and it wasn't just for show, since later on we get to see Sadie in action. Only her strength could get those creatures moving. I would not be surprised in the slightest if it is revealed later on that Sadie had his own devil fruit as well, either from back then or after the time skip. More than likely something that fits within her whole torture theme, even though zones right now are kind of becoming overblown with the way they pop up. But imagine a mythical type, succubus or something along those lines. She would be an actual asset to the Celestial Dragon's lives. Matter of fact, I think the Celestials would love Sadie since they have similar styles. She enjoys treating folks like slaves. In fact, I would not be surprised if Sadie turns out to be a Celestial Dragon in her past life that wishfully chose to serve in Impel Down, maybe after a certain line. Under her torture, she conditions some of the inmates to be her private rights back in her home at Marijoa, or she trains them and then ships them off to other Celestials, and those are just some of the things why Sadie is obviously, clearly, rightfully the greatest in this hit, this ultimate multi-decades classic. And this is her goddamn case. I've made it in this vote debate. And that's the greatest OG. VOAT. The greatest OG. VOAT. Yeah. Right. Shut up, you blasted ingrates! So to be honest, I think stuff like this is better reserved for the thumbnail only. And why the heck am I getting filler votes? I was told I'd only have to rate 3. And it's none of these 3. The next one of you fools that send out extra vote cases, you're walking the plank too. And put this one on the snake plank so the snakes can have a full belly when they all fall overboard. Send in the next vote. A real one this time. You blasted nincompoop. What are you talking about? You can't just toss me overboard. I just walk the plank. She's the sexiest villain in all of One Piece. Push him overboard. Okay. Okay. I got it. I'm on it. I am on it. Okay. So, we're getting serious now. This is a okay. Let me go. So let's take a trip back to somewhere in the earlier era of One Piece, a place where some folks had the audacity to skip but later on found out it was important and had to rewatch and reread stuff. A place where actual sensible fans did no such thing. A place filled with fluffy surfaces. One of the more unique landscapes within the One Piece world. We came to this location in an unorthodox and aggressive manner and state. This was not too long after we toiled in the desert. It was indeed a welcome change of scenery. The only goal was to go one direction, and that direction was up. We caught a ride on a powerful stream, literally shooting to the skies above to take us to the home of the actual greatest villain stud in the show, terrorizing a land called Skypiea, electrically blazing and such. So obviously this is Eneru, aka Enel, the only villain in the series referred to as God. Eneru came in with his unique entrance. It wasn't the generic I'm a big boss villain type of entrance. It was kind of cool, some may say goofy-ish. He flicked his way in almost like he was bringing across a dancing Buddha or Indian type vibe, but it definitely hinted at the power he had. A number of warriors, high ranking at that, wishfully accepted his brag, as Gordon wanted to serve him and do his bidding, as we got another hint on some scheme he was planning for some soon to be revealed thoughts. He also spoke in this initial meeting that the Blue Sea dwellers, basically the Straw Hats, shouldn't be taken lightly by his lower members. To put it simply, he wanted his own priests and military officials to just go out and remove any nuisances, since something he had that was special was almost ready anyway. That was how Eneru came into the story, on a pedestal. He sat on high and looked out at those that he addressed. None were skeptical. He is by far the greatest villain for one reason only. He showed mercy to Nami. Yeah, I'm serious. We could speculate a ton about this, like what the reason for that was. Matter of fact, let's talk about things. So it could be that he figured too many people have already fallen, and if he really wants to further his bloodline and build a bigger and better civilization, he'd need a female partner, aka a mate, for that. And since Nami is, well, Nami, hot obviously, he took her in. Or it could be that he figured that her knowledge of the Blue Sea was important and that lower world might be valuable as he set out to create and establish his own higher world. We could also just stick to the reasons that were implied in the story on screen. That would be that he realized Nami wasn't really a threat to him and he really likes having people to boss around, especially those that are obviously not a physical challenge for him without doubt. Either way, keeping a former enemy or alleged enemy in any regard close isn't a bad idea in general, since if that person turned out to be a threat later, you'll know. Nami, in this case, he could just crush her and move on rather than let her run and go and potentially becoming another mild annoyance, however you look at the scope. That is a really solid enough reason for this entity to be the VOAT. Who wants smoke? Okay, if you want a better or, more reasons for why he is the undisputed greatest, there are a number of things we could talk about the quotes that were hits. The vision and all of that, but for this right here, I think that it is in large part due to his power, as in the Devil Fruit. Lightning in general across several series is a powerful power, but even so, that Lightning Devil Fruit is hands down in the discussion for most powerful Devil Fruit ability in the entire series. Scratch that one. It's not just in the discussion, it is the discussion. It is the most powerful one. With the lightning ability combined with his mantra or haki, he could basically detect anything several miles across the entire island. He could hear all of what's being said from the distance and perceive whatever you're going to do before you did it up close, an ability with such a powerful output that it could vaporize an island. His lightning fruit is at least on the scale of an ancient weapon or a gigantic tank, without doubt. Plus, let us not overlook that it is power in its purest form, and he can use it to supercharge the first legit spaceship type vessel we had, soaring the clouds and raining down various drops of electrical bursts like it was rain. Plus, with this ability, he could take on an even more imposing frame, fly or teleport where he wanted to, and obviously it being a Logia state means most of you can't touch him, and if you're lucky enough to lay any reasonable hit, otherwise he just use it to reawaken his heart. Like even in death, his Devil Fruit will say, nah, we back in this part. So that is the reason he is top 1 quite easily, so don't even bother to start bringing any other character's name up in the same sentence as a lightning rod. The one true sky god of the One Piece verse. A lot of us all are awaiting the day he reappears with a surge in the story at some point, so it wouldn't be surprising if Eneru comes back to purge with the Arc Maxim or an attack like a ship built of raw lightning bursts. Wouldn't even be shocking if that black gigantic ball in the sky we saw that the World Elders ordered was in fact connected to Eneru's cause. Imagine if the god of the sky actually teamed up with the world government gods, creating a whole new dynasty, especially since Eneru now knows a great deal from afar about things in outer space, on the moon. Far away from the seas, he will be back soon. In the series, if I'm not mistaken, Oda done already clued us in, and bounty wise, if Eneru pre-time skip would be 500 million true, compared to what some other early One Piece villains that are now modernized in the bounty aspect, Eneru right now would definitely be of multi-billion hype. If he descended to the blue seas, the greatest Logia, the greatest Devil Fruit strike, the Sky God is the greatest power and One Piece villain of all eternity of all time. Man, that's my last line. And that's the great greatest OP. VOAT. The greatest OP. VOAT. Yeah. Oh God. All right. It's going to be done with the fillers. But this verse was too long. So put them on the anvil plank and let's move on. Send in the next vote. Make any sense. That doesn't make any. You can't just that's nonsense. That's foolishness. Overboard. Okay. Okay, I guess I'm up next. Okay. Alright. All of you that came before me, y'all suck. Y'all trash. Let's go. Okay. Allow me to set the table, or the stage, or the play. That one line alone might lead to a straight giveaway. But I will continue to go on and continue on to paint this picture. We're in the post-time skip era now, so stay. We're no longer in that transitional gap between eras. Fully underway, the Straw Hat crew attained companions from Punk Hazard. That would later become allies that hung around with them the longest, and connected to these companions was one of their own, loyal even in mess. Or at least that was what most of us thought at the time, like, sure bet. Fast forward past that, inside the start of the now second longest arc in the series, we get to Dressrosa and we get to the clear-cut greatest villain in the series of One Piece. That is Kanjuro wielding his paint set. Yeah. Kanjuro, one of the 9 red scabbards from the land of Wano, came to our pages and our screen. Quickly he was fascinating and more. Unique character designs in the series he was inside that open door and hall of characters within the Dressrosa arc. With an art-based ability, Kanjuro possessed the brush fruit and could draw creatures that would later come alive for a limited time. He had a comedic relief, oftentimes sharing the fun screen time with his longtime close friend in Kinemon. The creatures were goofy, sometimes barely looking like they can go on, but still managing to survive long enough to carry out whatever task he ordered them to do. This was all pre-revealed though, before his identity was uncovered. As a villain multiple arcs later in the land of Wano, the island of warriors, and also the first longest arc of the series, this was where the twists were showered. Valuable information was being leaked to the enemy, and afterwards, Kanjuro revealed his true self, capturing Momo and now drawing quality was upwards perfect creatures with his other hand. So basically Kanjuro drew the goofy creatures with his weaker hand, which leads me to why he is the greatest villain in the series. That right there is why Kanjuro is the greatest. The vote. He was able to create believable art with both hands. Think how hard it is to write your name with the hand that you don't use. Kanjuro was able to do that for literally several years or so. On to the point where everyone around him just assumed and accepted that that was his art style. And to be honest, there are times when we even wonder if he wanted to choose that style of art intentionally to fool them, or if that was simply the best he could do with that hand. We don't really know for sure, but either way, the ability to draw with both his left and right successfully is a reason I have Kanjuro number 1 as the greatest villain in the series, regardless of who's in the debate. But I can go further and give you a more serious reason though. There are several. This is what I will show. This meant Kanjuro was a definition of the resilient code. Yes, his resiliency is the biggest reason why he was the greatest, Oda wrote. This trait made him a frightening and frustrating foe to deal with whenever you think, that's it, he's defeated or dead, or too injured to do anything. He's back in full force. He survived what was supposedly starvation by consuming artistic vegetables, impalement, sword slashes and strikes, explosives. None of that matters. He finds a way back, even when the plot is suggesting his perfect ending, even when he himself is declaring the final act of his play. He returns again, even in his supposed scene of dying. He was still powerful enough to create one of the more devastating beings in the entire land of Wano, and by extension the series with the Kazenbo thing. And I would not be surprised if he is truthfully not dead and came back with drawn wings at some point in this final saga. His artistic ability with that brush through was so great, to the point where he could have drawn a believable clone to their fate. Would not be surprising if he drew a whole beating heart that can stay around for however long, even after his main flesh self was waste. He was loyal to the Kurozumi, so I wouldn't find it hard to imagine him leaving something behind to influence the other Kurozumis still moving around in Wano, maybe Tama for example. You never can tell for sure, since his abilities and his acting were overly convincing, and this is why I have made my case and settled the debate. Because the greatest is certainly Kanjuro. Now you know, and I've said all I needed to say. And that's the greatest OP VOAT. Man, that's the greatest OP VOAT. Yeah. Alright. Finally we're done. And I'm not even sure what to say anymore. I don't even remember what was the point of going through all of this crap. Bring out the... Captain, we only have a regular plank left. What? What the heck is a regular plank? I never heard of such a thing. Wait, you're the one that sent through the votes, right? Alright, be the human plank. The rest of you shove them overboard and get back to work, you bastards! Yeah. Alright. Walk the plank. Yeah. Push him overboard. Okay. That ends the thing, whatever that was. That ends the vote debate. So this is like my last words on this. If you just came for that, even though I know that a lot of you didn't even know what it was about, but if that's what you clicked on this video for, that is now done. But I am going to be talking for a little while here, for a few minutes until the end. First of all, I'm going to talk about this specifically, and then I'm going to talk about the channel overall. So this specifically, this idea came to me at the time that you're hearing this. It came to me probably a month or more, probably a month or more. I think that I had the idea for a little while. That may seem like not such a long time for some people. For some, it may seem like it was, but I had the idea. And to be honest with you, I wanted to do more of an impressions type thing, but I was running out of time. And why I was running out of time, that's going to be what I explain next, immediately after this. But basically, I just didn't have the time to try and make it more impression-y, trying to do impersonations of, or take sayings and styles from popular personalities. I was going to do like more of a sports type style within the One Piece thing, but I within the One Piece world, but I didn't really have the time. And then when I thought about it, there are several popular YouTube channels and parodies or whatever that don't really do impressions. They just literally use the same voice to do multiple characters or whatever, and they're extremely successful. These are channels that have millions of subscribers. So I'm like, hey, I don't have to jump through all of that, jump through all of those hoops. Yes, if I had the time, I probably would, but I'm like, nah, let's just push this out because I don't want to spend much longer on it anyway. So yeah, and if you've been following the channel long enough, or maybe you haven't, but the actual vote, the actual greatest OP villain of all time, all fun and joke aside, based on how the character was written, I don't think that there's any debate at all. There's any doubt that person is Doflamingo. But I deliberately did not want to write a Dofi verse in this. I think I'd probably go a little bit overboard. So I had fun with writing for all of those other characters. I don't know who folks are gonna say had the best verse or the best case. Who was the best vote? I don't know seriously. But I enjoyed literally all 5. I wanted to go up to 6, but then I cut it back for the same reasons. I didn't bother with the impersonations. I cut it down to 5. So yeah, that was that. Secondly, and lastly, this is pretty much the end of an era, somewhat, for the channel, for the One Super Tyson channel, because after this video, we're going to be focusing mainly on streams and clips from those streams. You can check out the channel. I think it's a channel. It's a video on the channel about big changes for OST. You can check that out if you want to hear a little bit more on what I'm talking about. But this would be, the channel is going to be going in a different direction. Based on what I've seen, based on how my life is personally outside of the videos that you see putting up, based on just how my life is and how I want to work as well and what I want to actually achieve, there was a reason why I started putting out videos from, I think, August of 2023. It was to get myself to a point where I can actually live, I guess. It would be the simplest way to put it. And I haven't been anywhere near to as successful as I wanted to be by this point, but I have learned a lot. And based on what I have learned, the direction that I'm going is a way to work a lot more efficiently and also see more solid results. So yeah, so going forward, you should be getting updates on the channel. Just subscribe, click the notification bell. Do not ignore the community post section if you are subscribed to this channel as well, because as we go on in the coming days and weeks and months, That is going to be a lot more active and also a lot more important if you're actually interested in interacting with the channel and also receiving more valuable things. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for rocking with the channel. This is the 600th video, the vote debate.